There we go. Welcome everybody to the Second Tuesday Poetry reading. Tonight's featured poets are Tamer Said Mostafa and Lynn Stevenson Grellas. And I'm saying that's for the recording. My name is Stella Baratlis and I'm your host this evening. Our first poet is Tamer Said Mostafa. Tamer is a radical social worker by day and a poet by night. He's a Stockton, California native whose poetry has appeared in over 20 literary journals and magazines, including Confrontation, Zone 3, and Freezer Ray. Tamer is a Best of the Net and Pushcart nominee whose debut full-length book of poetry, Where Will I Find America, was released in August 2021 and is available online. He's also the author of Which Way Will the Water Drag Our Bodies, published in 2020. Mostafa is a graduate of the Creative Writing Program at UC Davis, where he won the Lois Ann Latin Rosenberg Contest for Poetry. As an Arab American Muslim, Tamer lives life through spirituality, community work, and the music of Bone Thugs and Harmony. Please, everybody, welcome Tamer Said Mostafa. Tamer, take it away.
Cool. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. I'm seeing some beautiful faces that I haven't seen in a long time, so welcome. It's good to see everybody. I think I'll start this reading with a poem for my maternal grandmother. And this poem is titled Juanita's Grandson. Christmas Eve, 1998. You narrate Jesus's nativity from the Gospel of Luke. Your offspring, all but a few, bearing biblical names, circumscribe the room for a seat close to the tree. A miniature manger scene illuminates the center table. Bethlehem reimagined at our fingertips. Such is life, you say, that salvation is only for those who believe sanctimoniously like a shepherd's crook. I take my cue and play Silent Night on the piano, reading sheet music with an older grandchild's name scribbled in the corner. The burgeoning baritone of my voice deviates virgin, mother, and child into conflict with each other. You sit next to me on the bench, ratify note after note until the sapphire of my eyes reflects onto the mahogany and your chords recoil to God. Everything holy ends in absolution, I think, whether we are all or none of it. You venerate the white noise behind us, and I vow, louder than any dogma, never to celebrate again. This next one is titled Holiness on a Ramadan Morning. Obviously, for those who are not familiar, Ramadan is the holy month of the Muslim holy month of fasting. Holiness on a Ramadan morning. After Fajr prayer, fried fava bean falafel transfuses us and our onset of famine. You light a sandalwood candle and choke the matchstick's head with absolution. I become orgasmic. My awning unleashes morphemes from such nearsightedness. Your toes, atomic, boisterous, pulsating the silk tassels that bore worship as submissive as it was sinful. We can be carnal and raw all at once, erupting each other's palate into higher beings, so the hereafter doesn't forget us. This next poem references my father, whose name is Said, so that name will recur throughout the poem. The title of this poem is on having children. I could be the end of our bloodline if it weren't for the allegories. A patronymic transposes its succession through all that is still unexplained. Saeed. Your picture is a screensaver for the tweed sport coat I can still smell the sand mat and marsh from. You smoke a cigar on the Nile's promenade, the Cairo Tower's lattice frame, a fragment for the topography ravaged by excavation. You are aged as an apiary, brimming with combs the honeybees hid from the New World until you were ready. Saeed, Tamer Saeed. You name me after the prophet's fruit. The rendering of my name is what fathers chew and line the gums of their newborns with. You ladle its nectar inside the pocket of a flatbread, spread like the balance between hope and fear. I recite Ayatul Kursi quickly enough to disguise my mistakes and rekindle the query an oasis creates for the wayfarer. Saeed, Tamer Saeed, Saeed, Tamer Saeed. A new generation is generalized by the former. The privilege of having children is a lineage forged in suffering. Our children are nomadic before possessing their bodies. They will dance when tomorrow becomes a retrospect of today. You say fatherhood is an hourglass turned on its side. I read you our poem, uncertain of where it begins. This next poem is dedicated to a really good friend of mine who passed away in 2019. She was a huge influence on my life, still continues to be a huge influence on my life. And she was at my first open mic when I was a teenager. So the title of this is Mourning Diana Salagi in Solitude. Dear Diana, Empress upon petals, your body recycled through the clay in our wellspring of a city. Forgive me for my indifference. The psyche is a diaspore dispersed erratically. Whirlwinds and tumble. What I would do to detach its agony. Today, I weave a crown from a tall weed of crabgrass and call monarchs to censure the rancor in an ornament you would remember. The cortege ends with an undying godliness of where the migration originates. An open mic sign-up sheet binds to a billboard and the remnants of a corner cafe, traumatized for every ambition forsaken in its wake. I am present, later than I should be, but I am here. Dear Diana, mantras, apologies, motifs. Thank you for the love, my friend. This next poem is influenced by a Libyan-American poet, Khaled Matawa. The title is In and Out for Iftar. Iftar is it's the meal during Ramadan that breaks fast in the evening. So this is In and Out for Iftar after Khaled Matawa. The car in front stalls, and the associate who took my order is consoled by a xylosma overshadowing the drive-through. How many more minutes until I can eat? I am too anecdotal to answer. My soul separates its paradigm from reminder. The Ramadan before my 16th year, breaking fast 8 hours early for my first animal style, anomalous over a tall white t-shirt. I was sure the devotion swollen between two ground beef patties could counteract any anguish that goaded me towards professing faith in place of grief. The French fries, well done before the storm and filled with cacophonies, did not mind the line nor my cosmic appetite. A Neapolitan milkshake came to tongue-tie the grumblings I made amidst the rush, omniscience broken once more for another chance at fabricating freedom. A few minutes left, I say, a few figments of despair, stripping everything that would make me whole. To whom, I do not know. This next one is The Valley as told from a pet hospital parking lot. Bermuda grass on leaves. Crickets ricochet desires to the abruptness of dusk. The masks we wear are too large to contain life close to us. Our dog is inside, purging the 2 red grapes from his stomach that he scoured the couch's underbelly for. I sit on the curb, my legs straddling a drainage grate that supplements the delta with rainwater. An interstate is in the distance, splitting the eldest neighborhoods into demography and flaws. We separate from other people by the length, 2 paces, 2 strides, 2 seams of an emblem can betray the breadth before us. The calmness of a mulberry lurching its branches is enough to stimulate the dreams we withhold from ourselves. Shapes are real as the dirt curdled around our outsoles, overcome by praxis. Symbols are figments, speaking through us in tongues until mouths turn numb. By midnight, our dog is released with a drawstring leash fatiguing his neck and half a grape left to navigate its escape to the valley's blindfold, the only touch we can forgive. This next one is titled Allahu Akbar for TikTok. Allahu Akbar for TikTok, because now I know the drawer under an oven wasn't designed for storage, but to brown the bechamel on a pan of my father's moussaka in less than 30 seconds. Swipe up to debunk Arabic as the idiosyncratic gathering of syntax and disaster. Teach me how to say Ya Hayati, Ya Omri to the supernova's palm print gasping beside us. Pop quiz. Who can name the 6 levels of Karenism beginning with Ashley and ending in Miss Anne? Hint. It's more than just Bobs and boredom becoming talk of the old world. Don't let the hyperbole fool you. The blue light from between my thumb and 4 fingers indoctrinates trauma into dreams. The millennial in me can subconsciously troll each bystander into equal parts personal and impersonal. If I play something once, repeat it ad nauseum until idioms remember that death through tragedy is moving further from the present, and the secret of existence vegetates so easily in what can only be named. Biometrics be damned. Another challenge compilation interspersed among trick shots, life hacks, and illusions. I follow them into the void, this user-friendly labyrinth of montage and punishment. Share with others, or purge yourself out. So I just have two more. This next one was influenced and inspired by a poem from Chris Abani. It is titled Ode to Wedding Cake Indica. Ode to Wedding Cake Indica, after Chris Abani. There is never enough tiredness to solve incantation. Even longing is a gift. My lungs are too ungrateful for the fog. They absolve the body of disobedience, convulse inside an overworked hammock. I wrap prayers around the blasphemy with hope of reverting to some nebular semblance overhead. A snow goose, still phonic, manufactures their formation from a language only nihilists know. I take a single drag, sink through the canvas, bonded and sovereign. And I will end with this. I started with a poem for my maternal grandmother, who was so present in my life. It was just a great influence for me. Was almost like another caretaker. But I will end with a poem from my paternal grandfather, who I've never met. This poem takes place in Egypt, which I had the privilege of visiting a couple years ago. So the title of this is Badawi's Grandson. Badawi's Grandson, November 2021, May 15th, City, Egypt. After reading Al-Fatiha for the deceased, my father holds court on his sister's balcony, overlooking the desert's catacombs. He wears a cobalt-shaded galabeya, embalms the air with fables about past generations, some demonstrative, others unreliable. In one, your Bedouin tribe crosses the Red Sea from Yemen to Eritrea with nothing to eat but barnacles and urchins. In another, you slaughter 2 chickens for each childbirth, confiscating the village of its mothers and their terminal newborns. Post-mortem, my father throws your sinewy body over his shoulder like a burlap flour bag, conveys you back to the grave, how a good son should. Bashful, my father forgets these are dreams. His own migrancy will segregate language until every vignette is a scarab, and I crave the Arabic word for grandfather faster than his next revision. Perhaps hyperbole permeates the gap between our forebears and their afterlife better than prayer. Maybe, my father ponders, the further we move away from the present, we find that the past is the secret to our existence. Just then, your mythos accumulates us like a dune of sand and nestlings, anticipating that I sanctify you as my grandfather for the first time. And I say, ya giddu, giddu, giddu. Thank you, appreciate it.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Tamer. I want to let those words just sit there. Folks, you can see, hopefully you can see people. There's James clapping.
Thanks for the love.
Yeah, and check out the chat too, because lots of really sweet comments in there as well. Thank you so much, Tamer. I put the link to Tamer's How Will I Find America? So it's in the chat. Please click on it and consider purchasing it. We are, during the pandemic and doing these online readings, it's been really hard to sell books because usually in-person poetry readings is how we do it, and we haven't been able to. So That's been my commitment through the pandemic, is buy books, buy the poets' books. Again, thanks, Tamer. Really appreciate that. Great reading. All right, our next featured reader this evening is Lynn Stevenson Grellas. Lynn lives in the Sierra foothills and is a recent graduate of the Vermont College of Fine Arts MFA in Writing program, where she received a merit scholarship. She's an 11-time Pushcart Prize nominee and an 8-time Best of the Net nominee. In 2012, she won the Red Ochre Chapbook Contest with her manuscript Before I Go to Sleep. In 2018, her book In the Making of Goodbyes was nominated for the CLMP Firecracker Award in Poetry, and her poem A Mall in California took second place for the Jack Kerouac Poetry Prize. In 2019, yes, I just clicked away from there. In 2019, her chapbook, An Ode to Hope in the Midst of Pandemonium, was a finalist in the Eric Hoffer Book Awards, and Epitaph for the Beloved was nominated for a Northern California Book Award. Her latest collection of poems, Alice in Ruby Slippers, was shortlisted for the 2021 Eric Hoffer Grand Prize and awarded honorable mention in the poetry category. You can find out more about Lyn's work by visiting her website, clgrellaspoetry.com, which I will dump into the chat. Everybody, please welcome Lynn Stevenson Grellas. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you for having me. You can hear me, Stella?
Yes, you sound great.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's really great to be here on Valentine's Day. And like Tamer, I have been influenced a lot by people that I've loved in my life. And so I thought, since it's Valentine's Day, I would put together some poems that were sort of dedicated or odes mostly to those people in my family or people that I've known that have kind of inspired my poetry. And the number one person, I think, was my mother. So I lost my dad when I was very young, and I was very close with my mother. And so I'll begin with a poem called The Mother Poems. Someone once asked if all my poems were about my mother. Yes, I said, as if there was a way to write without her showing up, as guilt, as love, as tenderness, or even the shadow of her image in my mirror. That's her now, standing there behind the door, that sliver of light seeping in. She follows me everywhere, I wanted to say, no matter where I am or where I've been. In the hometown where I grew up, I left a backyard full of buried pets and a litany of prayers veiled with overgrown grass, a resting place for birds, turtles, and beloved dogs, popsicle stick headstones marking all their graves, tiny crosses saved from a childhood long ago. I wonder if the people who live there now have removed them. It's not like you can take death with you. It doesn't travel well. It stays where it stays, remains forever at its final destination, as if it's saying, time does stop, long enough to remove just this piece of you. Then it begins again with a kind of indifference nearly unbearable in its unpredictability. But if you're lucky, now and then, part of death slips through a door or just an opening between a broken sky, like a trespasser in the night searching for its past. Only its past is you, or some part of you. At my mother's funeral, my children stood beside me, and the pastor read the eulogy I'd written. I wanted to read it myself, but he thought I'd never get through it. Today, I'd like to tell him I didn't get through it. I'm still there in that chapel, waiting to read what I wrote. And so it comes out in all my poems, as if my mother might be carefully listening, or maybe slightly annoyed I wasn't strong enough to let time stop and take her. And so she continues to survive that part of her that was removed, that part that doesn't know she's dead. In our new house, I haven't buried one pet in the yard, as none have yet to die. But when I open the fridge and see a box of popsicles, I can't eat them. I'm saving them out of fear, out of spite, out of grief, a way of freezing time, as if I could explain to that pastor, my mother is still waiting for me to recite those words I wrote for her so many years ago, so she can finally hear what I've never been willing to say aloud. Goodbye. So I was very much also influenced by Ocean Vuong. He has a very strong connection with his mother, and his last book, Time as a Mother, was a beautiful book that I really enjoyed. And one of the poems that he wrote in there sort of influenced this poem. So it's titled While Listening to Ocean Vuong. Hey, I'm over the moon and under the weather, you know, like the ball is finally in my court and the game nearly finished. At least that's how it seems every time I go to bed and dream about yesterday. Wish me luck. I'm trying to get off this fence, you know, the one I was born on, the one that divides here from there, today from eternity, which might be the reason I always feel something's missing, some lost part of me I can't remember, as if the sky's made of glass with no reflection, no cartography that leads to another side. Yet it's easy to say, see you on the other side, without even knowing if it exists. Like maybe it will be good to die, to finally find out what this story really means, to reach the last page of this book of mysteries, of daily unknowings. What if the end turns out to be the best thing since sliced bread, and I've been evading it all these years, eating the heel instead of the soft insides? My mother always said spilling salt was bad luck, so I take everything with a pinch of salt and never worry about the overage. I mean, we're all going down in flames anyway. Isn't that the only way to end a dry spell? The world is feeling so parched. And come rain or shine, it's all the same, because I've only ever seen light at the opening to the tunnel, luring me through the darkness, even though I'm hoping for a bed of roses. But you know what they say, the proof is in the pudding. And so far, no one spilled the beans when it comes to proving anything. So let's call it a night, shall we, and cross that bridge tomorrow. So this next poem is called Where from Above, and I guess it speaks to the ache. Many women have had miscarriages, I'm sure, in their pregnancies. I was one, my mother was one, and so this poem speaks to the love or the ache that lives on after that experience. Where from Above. To the child who was almost born, but for the day's early hike to the top of the summit, where from above everything looked so precious, the sky crowded with clouds, ethereal as silhouettes of long dead relatives. Where from above, the children below didn't know anything more than how to tie their shoes or make angels in sand or smell the windy sea's concoction of salty perfume mixed with eucalyptus trees. Where from above, the birds waited for small crumbs to tumble from little hands, unwrapping a picnic's delight, everything sealed in plastic and closed tight, countering worry of spoiled food or anything contaminating the day's hunger. Where from above, people strolled along the graveled road, looking down at the pier, a throng of rainbowed umbrellas freckled against the rippled shore, buckets and shovels, half sunk in seaweed and shells, a horde of bees hovering together with the bitter scent of sagebrush in the air. Where from above, an emblem of silver draped jagged across the coast, in between gatherings of people laughing and talking about their plans for next year's vacation at some destination impervious to peril. Where from above, it appeared that all was copacetic and ongoing light, but for the stairs that were too many for a mother's body and an invisible life, where from above, the tiniest hint of red began to seep from her womb onto the bottommost plank of the redwood step of the downward climb, just as it was time to go home. So this next poem, so what I just did get my MFA at Vermont College of Fine Arts, and part of doing that is creating a creative thesis of the poems that I wrote during that time. And the name of that creative thesis is Of All That Is Within and Without. And this is the title poem from that book. And I suppose it speaks to just the moments that you know something's happening and you're sort of aware that there's something special about it and you're going to remember it for the rest of your life. Of all that is without and within. The loneliest days I've spent are the ones I felt most loved, as if I could sense time's passing, as if I knew nothing would be that wonderful again. When I was a girl, my friend and I would sit on the piano bench in an empty room. She'd hold out her hand and place my fingers over hers, then push the keys for music. Every piano I see has the memory of her saying, "Anyone can sing," as our voices would marry in one vast breath of melody. She died not long after, one morning in the middle of her song. I've opened a book of old photographs only to see all the people now gone, as if they're still alive, raising their glasses at my wedding, or my mother cradling my babies after each one was born. "Wash their hair with vinegar," she'd say, as if that was a biblical proclamation, her brown curls shining in pictures like a testament to purity and the power of a camera's flash. Once I had a bird who'd glide across the grass. She'd circle around and land on my outspread arm, where she'd linger willingly, until one afternoon in midsummer, when she flew too far, over the fence and beyond a path to follow. She died on the neighbor's roof, waiting for me to save her, as if I was on my way. Anyone can sing, I thought, my breast pressed against my skin of my newborns, listening to my mother with her old-fashioned remedies, walking down the aisle in a crown of stephanotis, my friend beside me in an echo from heaven. I shouted to that little bird, come back and land in my upturned palm." I too was influenced by my grandmother. Like Tamer, I spent a lot of time with her, I think because my mother was alone part of my childhood. And my grandmother was quite different from my mother. And so those were very memorable times. And poem is about one of those times. It's called "Listen, Darling." I know that memory has haunted you for years, the day you were shopping with your grandmother. She was such a proper lady, and there you were standing beside her as she tried on clothes in front of a three-way mirror. You can still hear the lilt in her voice when she said, "Come here, darling," smoke billowing from her mouth as it wafted over fingers dressed in diamonds, the scent of cigarettes filling the air. Your hair wound in a bun, a strand of flowers pinned behind your ear, your uniform pressed and a little gold brooch on your pinafore. It was the house of Kuan Yin, her favorite store, and she was so busy trying on clothes, her arms full of silks in every shade of blue. Maybe it was because you could have said something, but instead pretended not to see when that woman strolled out wearing a stolen coat. She glanced over with a short, loving kind of stare, and it was like having a secret with a stranger. And some part of you liked the intimacy of that exchange, like you were an accomplice, or maybe saving her and she knew. And your grandmother just kept shopping, stopping for puffs of her cigarette as if she was in another world, long enough for you to share in a moment that's never left. And that coat had a good life, hanging in that woman's closet for decades. She took such care of it, bringing it out between seasons, checking for moths, brushing the collar to keep the luster of its fur. She wore it to her daughter's wedding, her husband's funeral, and then she was buried in it, the price tag still folded in the left pocket. And every time you put on a coat since, you felt grateful you didn't have to steal it. But part of you has always wondered if your grandmother knew all along, taking a slow drag off her Pall Mall, flicking her ashes from her ring, quietly whispering, "Just add it to my bill," like that woman's coat was part of her haul for the day, because you remember her compassion. And sometimes, if you close your eyes, you can almost hear her say, "Don't worry, darling, I took care of it." This poem is a poem to my husband's mother, who was from, as she would call, the old country in Greece. And because my husband is full Greek, she didn't speak much English, and she was a fascinating, wonderful, lovely person who was very passionate. So, letter to my mother-in-law long after her death. Dear Angie, I confess, sometimes you reminded me of a golden retriever with your big puppy dog eyes, hearty gait, and playfulness, your dedication to hard work, the way you protected your beloved chickens living in the backyard. Standing on your sturdy hind legs, you'd bark in Greek, your native tongue, at the coyotes and foxes prowling the neighborhood for food. At night, you'd lay your body down, one cheek on a fluffy pillow, dreaming of the old country and the hilly grasslands of Greece, damp with midnight dew. Yours was a simple life. Exuberance could fill your soul with a car window rolled down, your nose rimming the edge of the door's metal frame as you'd ride around in the back seat in your furry pink robe, bare feet calloused and gray like the undersides of scruffy paws. Your silver hair would whip across your face in a tangle of strands, your image reflected in the rearview mirror of the family Chevy. Us kids taking turns driving you through familiar streets while memories and warm air brushed you to sleep. And when Pete died, as his coffin was being lowered from its steely scaffolding into the ground, you let out a high-pitched cry, then kneeled on the newly overlaid grave, your large hands sifting through dirt as though unearthing some hidden bone, your nose skimming the soft soil for his scent, trying to retrieve your young from the dead. And just for a moment, I wanted to be him, have someone love me like that. Sagapo. Well, it wouldn't be Valentine's without me reading a poem to my husband or for my husband that I wrote for. So it's called Wifely Admissions, Even After All These Years. There are nights my worries try to escape, like little souls climbing from the dead. I feel your arms outspread in my dreams, your face teased the hint of midnight sooner seal. There are nights I listen for 1,000 birds to land on leaves, as if that whoosh could soothe a man to sleeping while troubled with the whisper of desire. The way a child looks of innocence and guilt after anything forbidden they deem worth doing, or after anything worth doing they deem forbidden. Do you love me, I ask? I love us, you say. I'm on the verge of breathing one prayer upon another, as if a book of Psalms has spilled from the moon's curve into midair and slipped through an open window. There are nights I'm lost to the touch of your skin, the way a hint of cognac seduces the senses, the tongue full from the exhaustion of love. I sense your body curving to mine, collapsing around me, every part of you pulling me inside out, unveiling that which I've never unveiled, as if you could save me from all terrors I've yet to share. There are nights I'm drunk with rain, a girl spinning towards the storm, and you appear like the safe haven I've yet to name, a place unfound. Yet some terrors are not for sharing. They sound needy, unmindful of the constant that is you, confused by my fear of losing that which I cannot bear to lose. There are nights I'm thumbing through the pages of my mother's books, as though a message was left or folded in the crook beyond the turning, somewhere outside the universe. Stay here forever, say the lights in the room. Stay here until we are only a flicker of what once was, an apparition holding on to the vision of us. There are nights I have forgotten the pleasures of living. I have forgotten the splendor of lavender at sunrise, and I want to tell you how beautiful you are. And I try to remember you have my father's eyes. So I'm going to end my reading with these last two poems. My book, Alice and Ruby Slippers, is a book of form, which I write in both form and free verse. So these poems were all sonnets and villanelles and things. So this poem is what they call a nonce form. So it was a form that I kind of created to work for this poem. So it speaks to hope, which I think is a big part of love, hoping things, love getting you through things, and hope getting you through the love. So it starts with the epigraph from Langston Hughes. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Hope against hope. If hope's a thing with feathers, I'd like to rip its wings and make it stay just one more day to sing and sing and sing. Although Pandora locked the jar, its lid screwed tightly shut for reasons of safekeeping, a bit slipped through, an ounce or two, an evil seen as beautiful, a woman's trick intriguing. Yet in the book of common prayer, since hope's akin to trust, eternity seems promising, to dust, to dust, to dust. Dear swallow, I have only this fine coat to cover me till apple blossoms bloom. A spendthrift, now I'll sell it, guessing spring has entered with your songbird's splendid plume. Adrift, a sailor lost at sea in stormy times may grieve, deprived without his anchoring. Believe, believe, believe. In desperate days, I've scrutinized in vain some promised place kept deep within my breast, but spring of hope, eternal's boundless gift, was missing from its case, a hollowed chest. They took my mother's hope away when doctors said no cure. I whispered to a butterfly, save her, save her, save her. And what of all desires pled undone? And what of all that goes beyond unheard? And what of every wish that rests on faith, if hope's a thing with feathers, just a bird? Okay, this last poem is a little lighter. I was reading James Joyce, Ulysses, and then I got sidetracked by the love story of James Joyce and Nora, which there's a lot of information on. If there's a whole Netflix series on, in fact. So this is called James Joyce and Nora Have a Heart-to-Heart in Heaven. An erotic letter sent by author James Joyce to his wife has fetched a record $300,000 at auction in London. This was in 2004. You said I was your muse, your dirty girl, a little whore, a blackguard chambermaid, seducing you where endless love unfurled. All good behaviors tossed aside, unobeyed, revealed in letters sold at Sotheby's, where auctioneers cheered, oogling over words emblazoned, meant to woo me past our Bloomsday tryst. Epistolary notes that stirred untold naughty thoughts. Obscenities must elicit true salaciousness in those exposed to crudeness from the upper crust. Yet, dare I say, your finest prose was birthed by pure desire for my kisses. Without my love, there'd never be Ulysses. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Hooray. Thank you. Everybody, please, one more time for Carolyn Stevenson Grellas. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. Both you and Tamer, I really appreciated the, the thing that you shared in common is the power of family, and how it is fundamental to ourselves. I hope that you look at the chat too, both of you, if you haven't done it yet. There's some messages in there for you talking about how much people like lines. So thank you again. Everybody, we are going to take a look at our open mic signups here. I have 5 people signed up. I've got Vincent Cologne, Gary Thomas, J.R. Turek, M.T. Pariti, and Maureen Hurley. And I see that most of those people are here. But I just wanted to read the order of the names, number 1, so you know who was reading first, and second, and so on. And if anybody else would like to read something, then feel free to drop your name in the chat and let me know. All right, so I did, it's Valentine's Day. I don't have any strict rules about theme, as you know. But if, it would be fine with me if you wanted to read poems about love of any kind. It doesn't just have to be romantic love. I'm also very partial to anti-love poems as well. And I think, I know this isn't my personal open mic, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. Our first open mic reader tonight is Vincent Cologne. Hello, Vincent.
Hello. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So the poem that I'm going to read tonight is called The Sound of Settling, and it was actually published in the anthology book, which I'm holding right here. So this was inspired by Lee Herrick's Anechoic, and it's called The Sound of Settling. It is a loop poem. Floored by the whalebones, scrawling and scratching and clawing across the eons, the sound of settling up after a fight, fought for what you thought was right, wrought over years, twisted and bent but not broken, they worked your metal. Metal boil, toil and trouble, do you see each bubble surface? Surface and breach in the salty spray, oh, what a sight. It's my right, it's why I write. Right or wrong, left or right, the middleman hears both sides now. Now both sides acquiesce. Neither think they're wrong. Wrong they were to assume, feeling uneasy. The uneasy silence after a scolding. Scolded, I still hear the ruler slap the knuckles. Knuckles crack in the fog of war. Warlike sounds at the gate. Time passes as you passed me by. We hear the pounding of the clock. The clock's in the lead in this race we run. Run to the hills with clamor. The clamor alerts the rest. Rest under the heavens. Let me hear you take another breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Just breathe. Breathe in the time it takes to break the silence. Silence across the frozen miles, but your call is still heard. Herds of cattle and bison run when pushed, when pursued by the man with the plan and the fury and the sound of settling a foreign land, landing on a shore. Sure, you know what I mean. I mean the sound of a dream. Dream with me the American dream. Black out the screams amid trumpets. Is the rapture approaching? Approaching the sound barrier, we wait for the boom. Boom, not a bomb, then quickly a tomb. A tomb's but a room with no view. But at last it's quiet as a mouse in the house. Can you hear his cry? If not the cry, then at least the scratching or scrawling across the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so you submitted that poem for the little chapbook created by Modesto-Stanislaus Poetry Center and Gary Thomas specifically for the New Year's Poetry Challenge. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you read something from that. It's really great. And our speaking of that, Gary Thomas, you are our next open mic poet. Hello.
Hello. Thank you, Stella. This is a much older poem than I'm used to reading, and it's unusual for me in that it rhymes and that it's a love sonnet. At the time I wrote this, I don't remember, but apparently I was reading a lot of Margaret Mead, Joseph Heller, and Elizabeth Barrett Browning. So I'd like to thank them for getting this started somehow. Sonnet Catch 22 from the Papuese. When our two spirits drift at last between the grin of moon, chagrin of spring's full sun, winking, shimmering, mousy hair undone, our sainted Margaret Mead, free love's queen, shall break into fire, bid us be obscene but not heard in the flames we will have spun. If angels' only ecstasy is one doxology after another, lean closer, my dark love. Let us be well damned as we do our earthly joys consummate, as we don't pretend we are not enjammed in our contrarious, conjoined checkmate, eager to be islands undiagrammed, sweating spirits gods dare not isolate. Thanks.
Thank you, Gary. I just typed in the chat, goodness. Oh my goodness. Thanks. Our third open mic reader, J.R. Turek. Hello, J.R. I saw you in the room.
Here I am.
Great.
Cool. One two? How many? One poem or two poems? Or
Well, it's I mean, it's about 3 minutes per poet, but we're,
okay,
go for it.
okay,
Whatever feels like 3 minutes to you.
okay. Well, I'm thinking Valentine's Day, so I'd like to read a Valentine's also, but I will be reading from. Thank you, Gary. So I love poetry marathons. So this is Viva Magenta, Pantome 18-1750. Welcome to your wake up, bold accent bedroom wall, to outring the alarm clock, outshine the sun rising from black, blue, gray to peach, salmon, flamingo, to outdo that ho-hum, same old drab wardrobe. Shower in bouquets of fragrance, orchid-scented gel, smooth as cherry blossom petals, to arouse your senses to face a vivacious day. Pick out something bright to wear, a persimmon pink blouse, a carmine silk scarf, chunky necklace, lips, cheeks, and lids glowing in rosy tones. Finish with a violet jacket thrown over your shoulder. You are ready for a Viva Magenta day. Maybe stop at the salon at lunch for some trendy highlights. Mantra red mingled with very peri, streaked in sections to blaze bright as stop signs on Rodeo Drive. Fiery blaze to stop traffic in Times Square. Revel in your rebellious want for out-of-season lobster. Be a trendsetter. Paint your nails and toes a deep fuchsia. Gloss them to shimmy shine like glass. Attract lady beetles to land on your hand. Stroll gardens pollinating with bougainvillea, roses, bleeding hearts. Compete with a sunset that steals your breath. Go ahead, bully boring. Buy the suave shoes. Strut your banner. Wear it. Wave it with your own joie de vivre. Viva Magenta.
Lovely. I was just thinking, like, this poem is in honor of your hair color. I love it.
That was last year's very Perry.
Did you have another one that you want to read us to?
I would.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm celebrating a new book called Dog Speak, which was a 24-hour poetry marathon. So these are the 24 poems in 24 hours in the voice of dogs. And I am supporting North Shore Animal League, which is an amazing rescue organization that we've gotten 10 rescues in 38 years. And so this is in the voice of a dog. Kisses, always kisses. You know how much I love you, adore you, want you, need you, can't imagine my life without you. I love you. Kisses, always kisses, no nips, no bites, no fights, no grudges held over heads and shoulders. Release before night falls with kisses, always kisses. We don't always agree on bath time or vet time or trim my nails time, but we always get along. You say you know what's best, and I trust you to let me have my way now and then, always with kisses, kisses always. You toss and turn crumbs left over from the day, clogging dream canals, and I cuddle close, closer, hugs, hugger, you smile, I offer kisses, and always, always you accept all the kisses I've got, and that's a lot. Kisses, always kisses. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks for coming tonight and reading.
Thank you.
It's nice to meet you. And Vincent too, like 2 new people who are reading at open mic. Great.
We're from the Long Island section, so.
Oh my goodness. I didn't know we had that section.
You're doing
That's
it
great. Our next reader I don't think is here, but
MT
MT.
is he here?
I don't think so, unless
He's also from
someone else's.
he's also from Long Island, New York.
Wow.
I'll tell him that you sent his regards. He sent his regards.
Yes. I can't believe we have a Long Island contingent. That's very exciting to me. All right, so since MT is not here, we will move right along. And Mo, Hurley, welcome. Happy to see you again.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I was madly looking for my Viva Magenta poem too, and of course couldn't find it. Viva Magenta. I remember looking at that going, that's not magenta. This is from yesterday. It's called Imagine the Stars. Imagine the stars dancing in the sky, dancing because that is the way of things, because the universe is singing about deep space and black holes, while Orion hitches up his belt and raises his sword up to smite another heart. He strikes a blow because that's what hunters do. It was always about the hunt. Ask Daphne what bay laurel bursts into song whenever she enters the room. What clouds gather round the moon to be closer to the source? All those angels dancing on a pinhead have an assignation with the stars. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Those of you who did not participate in the New Year's Poetry Challenge, obviously there was a prompt that was sent out to many people, 3 of whom were from Long Island. And the prompt was Viva Magenta, I think, or magenta. Is this the Pantone color of 2023 or something?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That's right. That's right.
I saw that prompt too, and I started to write one. Then
I didn't write on that prompt, but Judy did, and MT wrote on a different prompt.
Oh, okay. Darn it.
If you want, I can read his
yeah.
poem.
I think I wound up going off into Proselandia and writing a rant that was not magenta.
Oh, we have one more open mic poet actually, so let's. Sorry, I just muted myself. Let's move along. And we are welcoming Michael Gorman to unmute. Michael, your screen is doing that thing again, and I don't know if you are able to unmute yourself at this point. But maybe if you turn your video off and your...
Can you hear me now?
We can, yes, perfect. Thank you.
Sound on, yeah. Okay, not that I'm cynical about Valentine's Day or anything, but this poem that I'm going to read, I actually wrote on a dare. I was invited to read at a poetry society in a very, very conservative town. And apparently they missed the memo about my being a sometimes edgy gay poet. And I wasn't sure what to do. And a friend of mine challenged me to write a very gay, very explicit poem that says absolutely nothing about being gay and see if I could get away with it, which I did. But here's the poem. It's just a simple nature poem called The Mountain Climb. The height of it, the majesty of it rises before me, defying the valley below and the gravity-bound boulders at its base, lost ignobly among the bushes. I breathe deeply in anticipation of the climb, inhaling the earthy musk of the damp morning that rises from the clefts, the grasses, and the earth below. I reach for a handhold, lift onto my toes, and begin my ascent of this mighty giant, its head pink with sunrise light, thrusting boldly toward the heavens. Sensing my presence, my presumptuous presence, it quivers, or so it seems to me. It fears my dominance even as it invites my audacity. My muscles and sinews tense and roll and undulate with the strain of each painstaking upsurge. I breathe great wind, licking away the dryness on my lips, hoping to absorb the sorcery of this colossus of the sky. All of me focuses on the climb, the sweaty pain and pleasure of the groping, sliding, grunting, clamoring, scrambling, shinnying, heaving, hoisting, grasping, sprawling, undulating mounting of this titan out of ancient myth. Ceaselessly it towers above my heaving lungs and dripping brow. Obsessed and unstoppable now, I continue euphoric, past slithering veins of quartz and slick granite surfaces, higher, higher up this tower, this minaret, this monument, obelisk, pillar, column, steeple, spire. I worship with eyes rolled upward, with tongue lapping silent prayer. I worship, I worship, I worship, up, up, and over the crest, the ridge, the lip, the tip, the crown, the cap, the head, the height, the zenith, vertex, apex, pinnacle, peak, summit. Yes, 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 the wet clouds splash against my cheeks and baptize me into the rarefied air above the monster I have made my own. The brute become a bondsman to the climber. I lie back, recumbent in satisfied exhaustion. Amen and amen. One little old lady in the front just went, that was so beautiful. I felt like I was right there. At which point the one little old guy in the back that got it fell off his chair. I felt
That's
successful.
fantastic.
I want to read one brief,
Okay.
really short one.
Go for it.
Also about Valentine's Day. I haven't said that with a little sneer in my voice. Your hair was not that special shade. Your eyes were gray, not blue. Your place cried out, please get a maid, but something made me stay with you. You didn't say the sweetest things. Your waist was slightly round. You never spoke of love's light wings, but something made me stand my ground. You never trimmed your nostril hair. Your fashion sense was bad. Yet I looked deep and I found there the host of credit cards you had. I'm yours until the sea runs dry and horses will not prance. I'm yours as long as willows cry and Visa gives you cash advance.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm glad that you're here tonight. So I think this might be your first time at a Second Tuesday
Yes,
open mic, so welcome.
I'm
And I
very-
hope you come again. We do this every month. Yeah, so I just wanted once again to remind everybody that if you go into the chat and scroll up, you will see a link to Carol Lynn's website where you can find a section that contains links to purchase her poetry collections. I said book in the chat, but I meant books. She has many books available for purchase. And then if you scroll up even higher in the chat, you will find the link to Tamer's book available on Amazon, Where Will I Find America? So again, thank you all very much. Oh, you know what? I'm closing it out, except Vincent, I said you could read your Long
gonna read,
Island compatriots poem.
This is my buddy, my wingman, MT Paridi. He's an advocate for a bunch of different mental. He's a supporter. So the name of this poem is called Words and Sounds. Where do they come from? Where do they go? All the words. Goddamn, I don't know. Trying to find them, I run myself ragged, and waiting is just like sitting on a cliff jagged. Afraid of the fall, I shift and I wake. Another nightmare where I lived a life fake, where all I could make are the people around. So sick of my words, and I look at my sound, simple and compound, we're conversing inside. And then you found why I can't seem to hide from the words when they come from your mouth and your head and your heart and your soul, from the place I feel dead. But they're stuck. Yes, they stick. Yes, they suck. Sick and ick. Why couldn't you pick just a few different words, just a few different phrases to explain all your hurt? But you choose to attack. Best defense is offense. But you're taking it past the point of making sense. She never relents when she gets pushed past the brink, when she's given over to the red from the pink, a rose-colored hue over all that she thinks when she is convinced that you are the weak link. Please try not to blink, or you might just miss that I'm coming with all the downs in the bliss. Words they can kiss, a soothing embrace, a comforting hand down a tear-covered face. They cannot erase, but they can bandage wounds. They were caused by more words, not the belt or the broom. Yes, they can consume if locked in a room, if locked up in storage, or left in a tomb, to avoid all the tomb that can come with the silence, that can come with such rage, from such force and such violence. Just fill up the time with sounds that surround you instead of the ones inside that confound you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for reading MT's poem.
M.T. Paridi.
MT Paridi. All right. All right, everybody. I'm going to close out the reading by reading us a poem by a poet whose work I really love, Ellen Bass. And it's called Ode to Repetition. The reason I'm reading it for today is that it really is a love poem to the mundane, to the world, to getting older, just to everyday, the everyday, which is what we have, that's what makes our life. Ode to Repetition. I like to take the same walk down the wide expanse of Woodrow to the ocean, and most days I turn left toward the lighthouse. The sea is always different. Some days dreamy, waves hardly waves, just a broad undulation in no hurry to arrive. Other days, the surf's drunk, crashing into the cliffs like a car wreck. And when I get home, I like the same dishes stacked in the same cupboards, and then unstacked and then stacked again. And the rhododendron, spring after spring, blossoming its pink ceremony. I could dwell in the kingdom of Coltrane, the friction of air through his horn, as he forms each syllable of lush life over and over until I die. Once I was afraid of this, opening the curtains every morning, only to close them again at night, again each night. You could despair in the fixed town of your own life. But when I wake up to pee, I'm grateful the toilet's in its usual place, the sink with its gift of water. I look out at the street, the halos of lamp posts in the fog, or the moon rinsing the parked cars. When I get back in bed, I find the woman who's been sleeping there each night for 30 years. Only she's not the same, her body more naked in its aging, its disorder. Though I still come to her like a beggar. One morning, one of us will rise bewildered without the other and open the curtains. There will be the same shaggy redwood in the neighbor's yard and the faultless stars going out one by one into the day. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Little light, little dark. Happy Valentine's Day. And we will see you next month, I hope, on March 14th.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you again, Carolyn
Stella.
and Tamer.
Thank you.
I just have to say, Carolyn and Jim, I'm Greek. I was all excited when you said my husband is Greek.
And you know Sagapo at the end too.
Of course, I was all excited. Any little mention of the Greek stuff, I was like, yes. My mom was born there, and my father is also Greek, but he wasn't born there. Anyway,
Awesome.
so yeah.
Another
Anyway,
connection. Okay.
yeah. All right. Take care, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Good night. Thank you for coming.